TikTok, it's time to rock. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a special episode here on the channel. We have some guests who have been on the show before, Simon. We look forward to reintroducing them, Simon. How are you? How is the Rock Professor?
The Rock Professor is upright and breathing. it's going so far. I've taken my pulse, and there was something there, so things are looking up.
Fantastic. Good to see you, Rock Professor. We want to do a special shout out, obviously, folks, before the Rock Professor introduces our two guests, if you're not familiar with who they are. But obviously, Brad, our brother in arms, who's busy at a gig this weekend. We ask and hope, bro, that the gigs went well and you have a safe journey back home this evening.
Yes. Yes, good old Brad out doing what he should be doing, playing his guitar and singing. Hopefully, I don't know if he's got his top hat on and his curly wig. But, he's quite often out doing that. So, T-leg. Very bad start. So, guys, how's it going? We've got Jim and Brodie joining us this morning, which is fantastic to see you guys. As Andrew said just now, you're now regulars, so you don't get applause or anything, or a ticker tape parade or anything. No, you just get an vague introduction. Here's Brodie and Jim.
Yeah, they're back. It's worse for them. We send them a bill.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you're in the team, you've got to pay subs. You know when you join amateur sports teams, you have to pay subs, don't you? Everyone pays a £5 a week to keep the club going. Well, it's the same here. We pay subs.
Yeah. This show brought to you by, and then we're paying to be on.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, this show. Yes, we haven't got that far yet, but this show is brought to you by Win a Lot dog biscuits or something. Or, no, that's not. Was it Theme Time Radio? I used to do that, didn't I? All those blues guys, Sonny Boy Williamson used to go on and then have to advertise some dodgy biscuits or something on.
Sending a bill to an Aberdonian though is a bit hopeful, I think. There's a travel guide that says an Aberdonian wouldn't flinch from removing a sixpence from a cowpat with his teeth. So it's a statement of their meanness, really.
We're not going in for those racial stereotyping, Jim. That's not on this show.
Well, it's not called Scott's Mist for nothing, isn't it?
Not called Scott's Mist at all. Well, that isn't anyway. Dear me. Marvelous. So, guys, what's been happening? What's been happening this week? Anything happening this week that we've noticed? I quite like the idea that we've seen no deaths, no divorces, no marriages, no birthdays of any note. It's a quiet week in rock and roll Valhalla, hasn't it?
Mm. Yes, and thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Need a few quiet weeks, don't you?
Yeah. It's still sad to hear about Robbie Robertson, though. That was a real shame to lose Robbie. Yeah. What a contribution he made to the music. But that's back a bit. I think I find that some of these people, like it's taken a wee while to get adjusted to it. Jeff Beck not being with us and stuff. These are pretty monumental ones that we've had. So and we'll probably have some more, sadly. Because these artists are reaching that age, aren't they? Really? Yeah.
Well, absolutely. The trouble is they're all getting old, aren't they?
Yeah,
You know?
that's
Yeah.
right.
Was it Bob? Bob
We
Dylan's
are
82. Yeah, yes, thank
Some
you,
of
Jim.
us
Yes, I don't need reminding. It's like, but no, I said, it's salient fact. They're all getting older.
Yeah.
And Robbie Robertson's 80. It's a kind of
Yeah.
that's kind of what happens, isn't it? And I also wonder about how much the rock and roll lifestyle, just that thing
Yeah.
about being on tour, how much it takes out of you and how much
Mhm.
it shortens your life. Seems to shorten people's lives.
Yeah. Or, for some, it seems like they, if they keep going, it's good.
Yeah.
And other ones, it takes its toll. Even the well-behaved ones, it's hard on you.
Yes, you mean Charlie Watts, relatively well behaved, still.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, still beat by Keith. Yes, how does that work?
Yeah. Oh, my favorite meme though is the one that's it talks about all these environmental things, and it's what kind of world are we going to leave for Keith Richards and Willie Nelson?
Yeah.
I quoted that only last night to a friend of mine. I met up with an old university friend of mine. Yes, and I said, what kind of world are we leaving for Keith Richards?
Yeah.
Of course. Well, I can tell you that breaking news, Gretsch Zeppelin says that Mick Fleetwood's bar burnt down in Hawaii.
All right. Right.
Now, you can be the judge of whether that's news or not.
Yeah.
This just in. It's kind of thing.
Yeah, I saw some video from Michael Anthony on, I don't know, one of the social platforms about that. They were just leaving and how it looked. Just devastating.
Yeah, actually, we should shout out our friends Brian and Laws who live in Hawaii. I hope they're all right. Brian, if you ever watch this, I hope you're okay, mate. And, still got standing property and things. Not in the way of it. But anyway, any old how. We're here to discuss 24 nights and get. Well, Andrew and I have done epic journeys through it all. So can we start off with you guys and see what your initial thoughts were about it? What you think about it? Jim, if we start off with you. Brodie.
Yeah, I think when it was first announced, that it's one of those things that sort of things like a dream come true, because it's something you would like to happen, but it doesn't always work out that way. And we knew there was a kind of a lot of music kind of out there that hadn't been put on the original release, and whether there could be these kind of separate releases of the different formats and stuff. And so we get to a point where you think that's not going to happen. So I was really quite excited when I heard it was coming out. I think I suppose I'll just start. There's a little story in the recent kind of Where's Eric that I think shines a little light on it that sort of surprised me as well. It's an interview with Simon Climie, and it says really an amazing story behind this. Eric's office contacted me to say they'd found some old VHS tapes and would I mind taking a look at them. I gathered somebody was throwing these into a skip somewhere in the north of England. There was a name and number of the director on the tapes. So he phoned the director saying, "Is this your stuff? It's all going in the skip." So he turned up and filled his car with them. And we had a look through, and they were multicam videos with 7 or 8 cameras in various degrees of dilapidation. So we kind of think these things would be cared for and kind of curated. So they got together, and he did a lot of work on kind of digitizing them and all sorts of stuff. So the article, I guess people can find that and read it. But I was quite astonished to think that what you guys have been talking about for the last 3 weeks with your programs might not have been there at all if that telephone call to the director hadn't been made, and they'd all ended up in a skip, on a landfill site or somewhere. So quite amazing. Yeah.
Jim, they were the actual films from each camera, from the cameras themselves. So the
Yeah,
first gen.
that's exactly it. Yeah, I mean, it's quite amazing to think that. I mean, a lot of in the old days, I think when they made videos, they had 3 cameras, one at each side and one in the center, really. So they must have put a bit of work in that to have seven camera things on some of these to get all the different angles, I guess, that you see in a finished product. So
well,
he says
there's a lot of Eric's hands, aren't there?
Yeah. He said some of the stuff would be kind of like 90% okay quality, but he said that wouldn't pass Eric's quality threshold. So a lot of the stuff that was there wasn't kind of usable. But anyway, an interesting kind of little note really around this.
Jim, so they presume they had to digitize it and then clean it up today?
Yeah.
The kind of process.
Yeah, with I think varying degrees. He talks about the whole the different the whole surround sound stuff, and Dolby Atmos. He says that's the best way to kind of experience this now, because you get the kind of feeling like you're in a hall or in the room. So yeah, just a lot of work, and he clearly enjoyed the task really, but yeah, something we probably wouldn't have known if you hadn't got that directly from somebody that was kind of contact.
Yeah. So Simon Climbing had a lot to do with the sort of cleaning up of the digitizing of the video stuff as well, did he?
Well, I think he was involved. I don't know how that team works, but he was probably in looking at selecting performances. He speaks about how they got the three Blu-rays sorted out, and then they decided to make that amalgamation to have the the theatrical version that went out there across 24 nights as well. So that was the project that he kind of was overseeing, really.
Right. Yeah.
I imagine there's also been, for the vinyl release, I think there was, I think that was probably some separate work done and mastering for that. But yeah, interesting thing.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you? They'd mastered it differently. Brodie, what about you? I noticed you had is that the original video you got there? Or?
Yeah. $22.50. I still have the the price tag on it from when I bought it, but no, I remember I was cleaning up my parents' house recently, and I sent a picture to Andrew of the cassettes that I found. I remember my dad went and bought the so we could listen to them in the car, and excuse me. So it was I mean, straight away, anytime the music came out, that was one thing. But then once the the video came out, then this was in the VCR all the time, and just watch and watch and watch. And you think about 24 nights, and originally it comes down to 6, 10, 13 songs. You're like, out of that many, it's like they didn't play the same thing all the time, and not that this wasn't, and still I love to watch the old videos and appreciate the production for the time, and still be like, I really don't care. I just want to see the band and hear the music and all that. And but with this, when it came out, it's like, you look at the track list on this versus the track list on the big thing, and you knew there was more, and so that was exciting. And of course it was going to be great. I mean, there's not an ounce of criticism in me, with this stuff, but I'm a little biased on it. For me, it's when you watch it, it's you're just pleasantly surprised all the time. And I thought about it also, that this was right after the Journeyman phase, or still, touching that record, and just the definition of journeyman, someone who has learned the craft, and clearly he has in all the elements, the rock piece, the blues piece, even to interact with an orchestra, and touch a lot of these songs. It was great to hear the different versions too, because you could tell it was not every time he sang it, it was a different, probably different liberties and different takes on things, where you can tell they're just the songs that are part of them, and however they play it one time is one delivery, and they play it the next time it's another. And I don't know that he'll ever call himself this, but I think it was past a journeyman at that point, from all these songs on here.
Yeah, for sure. And do you look at this as a kind of the beginning of the modern Eric Clapton, where he embraces his past, he does songs from all eras, and he also re-embraces the blues and maybe the longer soloing bit and stuff like that, which he doesn't seem to. That's my kind of impression, that this is kind of him, the new, and from then to now is what he's pursued as his career kind of thing later on. Do you think that's true, or am I missing the point?
No, I mean, I think it's true, and I think not only has he mastered it, but I think in his own mind he continues to, as being trained and knowing, to use the journeyman thing, to have learned his craft, to have taken the time and done all this. I think once that From the Cradle thing hit, I think that was him continuing to serve the master, which was the blues, which was the, ultimately the songs, but for the most part it was the master he served as a journeyman was the blues, and is the blues. And he plays the hits because you got to play the hits, but even those hits they're all in the blues.
Yes, they don't stray that much away from it, do they? Jim, is that your view of it as well, Jim? That this is kind of, where he begins what I would call the modern Eric Clapton, pursues that.
Well, yeah, and I think it's probably where sobriety had started to kind of really kind of kick in for him. that he'd kind of had a couple of years sober properly. He'd been on a kind of journey there, and I think, I think he became. I think you can see probably Eric taking a bit more control over his career as he went kind of through the years. When Journeyman came out, it felt different. I remember I think I bought that probably the day it came out, or certainly the week it came out, and put it on, and you just heard from the start, the kind of bit more assertive guitar playing than he'd had on record for some years. And you had Pretending and then Bad Love, and I think it kicks in, and it was a very kind of well-made record. It kind of almost designed for going on the road in a lot of ways. It certainly worked well for him in that case. But and he kind of he premiered that at the Albert Hall in 1990, and then he went on a world tour. And I think the band just got better and better. I think when he was presented the original tapes for what was going to be the first issue of this, the band had moved on and evolved so much in that time, and the performances that he wanted to include some of the 91 shows as well. So, yeah, I think it has, and I think Brodie's right though. I think this was the start also of that kind of proper reconnection with blues music. With the blues shows. I went to the first one at the Royal Albert Hall. I only went to one of the shows because I live, away, so it's more difficult. Some people go to several, but I couldn't do that. But I think the blues then, and then there was a concert series in '93 where he presented fully blues shows to the audience. Some people walked out because they weren't hearing Wonderful Night and stuff, and then obviously that led to
really,
yeah. There was kind of stories of people pitching up thinking it was just the usual kind of series at the Albert Hall, and they were getting Scrapper Bracknell's songs and stuff from and being introduced that sort of stuff, and it was like, well, where's Wonderful Tonight and Layla, so they didn't get any of that.
Right.
And
that's interesting. So he did kind of blues nights and rock nights in a way that we've kind of reviewed them and stuff like that.
Well, I think the one I think he moved on in '93. It was just him, and there was no guests, so he took responsibility for the kind of whole show. And it was kind of like a history lesson of the blues. It started sort of chronologically from some of the earliest blues songs that he'd encountered, right through to I think he was one of his own. And they were very powerful shows. They would merit a release. There's some bootlegs of those. They're not the best quality, but they are certainly worth a listen if you like blues music, and it demonstrates just his knowledge of that stuff, of all that and then I think that led him to, I mean, Unplug's in there somewhere because there's quite a lot of blues, but then we get to the From the Cradle stuff too, and then the blues tour 94, 95, which were so that was if you like Eric Clapton playing the blues, this was a great period. It started back there in 1990 and the 24 Nights shows. Great to see.
Started to re-embrace it and kind of incorporate it in, and this is what I'm going to do. This is who I am, as a player.
I think, and obviously, I think in the States, he had, he was bringing in, Brodie might know more about this, but obviously there was the shows with where he had, I think, Robert Cray and Stevie Ray Vaughan joining him, sometimes for kind of encores and stuff. So Eric had definitely reconnected and sort of reasserted his position in line with kind of blues music again. He's kind of he said it's always been there, and I think that's true. Even in songs that aren't blues songs, you can hear some blues guitar playing in them over the years. But this was a kind of a great period, I think, in my view, anyway, a great period for hearing that kind of music and reinvigorated. And I think I always think, I mean, I'm Brodie's, you're all musicians, but I think Eric brings a lot of soul to his music, doesn't he? His guitar playing, and it's just there. It's beyond technique, which he's got, but he just manages to put a lot of emotion into that, and it works so well with a lot of those kind of blues tunes.
Absolutely. Yes, he's been through the ringer himself, hasn't he? In many ways, so he's got something to draw on and to bring out when he's playing. I think that he's like a lot of English guitar players, isn't it? He plays very emotionally, but he's not necessarily, as a man, that doesn't necessarily come out in the same way. I mean, I think of always of Richard Thompson in that vein, a man who's very, but quite reserved, British, quite reserved, and yet it's all in his playing there. And David Gilmour as well. David Gilmour, I always think of a player who's, when he plays, it's very emotional. But when he, as a person, you don't kind of necessarily get that kind of passion, do you? That necessarily right out there. Brodie, what's your view? Stateside.
Well, I think there's always been this properness, to the English guys especially, and which is really admirable. I mean, you don't see, their style, their presence, everything that they do, it's proper, and even when they play and when it's, the emotion, the David Gilmours and but especially with Clapton, I think in this whole period, the suits and the image and everything, I think it was a way to make, set a foundation of class of here's what we're going to do, and we're going to do it properly, with even the way the band dressed and the way the people were, gathered, and him, not even engaging with the audience very much, which he's never really done. He's not going to stand there and talk to them. You get these one-liners that, he's communicating, but it's really about when that music's going on. And I think just as, the departure from the Armani suits and the orchestra and the high-end gear and the whole thing. I mean, this was everything, to the nines on this. And I think even when they went on the 90, 94, 95, that From the Cradle thing, as much of a departure as it was from the suits to the jeans and the red-winged boots and the old gear, everything about it was different, the haircut, the look, everything, but it was still proper. It was proper in that this is about the blues. This is about the old songs and bringing that, to everybody in the most compelling way, from the singing to the playing to the image to who else is in the band, and really, reestablish that from the cradle. 100 years from now is that was an important record to happen.
Brodie, can I just jump in and back up a great point that you made? I think the visual aspect of Clapton's always been important. We know that, and we love talking about that. That's just as important as the music for a lot of fans. I get that. But the point that you're making about how Clapton was looking the part, especially with the Journeyman era, and that link back to the old blues guys, is a very real thing, because all the blues guys in the 30s, the Chicago blues guys, they all dressed well. They all wore suits. That was the demarcation between them and the average black guy in Chicago who was working on the factory line. A bluesman was always impeccable in the way that he looked. So the fact that Clapton did that with Journeyman in the 24 Nights era is another blues linkage that he's tapped into. Good point, Brodie.
Yeah. And also, it's very interesting, isn't it, that clearly the suit thing is a very 1980s thing as well, isn't it? If I think about, bands from the 80s, here particularly, there's a lot of suit wearing going on, shoulder pads and suits and things. So that linking it back to the, as you say, Andrew, the brilliant point about, all those blues guys, they all wore suits. Muddy Waters, they were all suit wearing, when they went to play. It's kind of, didn't see them scruffing around in jeans as well. So it's kind of
BB King and I mean, even from when you see articles about Clapton talking about his heroes, he refers to a lot of the different guitars as a proper guitar or a grown-up guitar or a gentleman's guitar. I mean, it wasn't some beater. It was a proper Martin, or it was a proper Gibson or something like that. It was all part of it,
No, absolutely, yeah. But it's I've not picked on. It's a good point about that link between the bluesman and playing in suits and looking smart and looking the part, professional. So
I think Phil Collins once criticised Eric for playing the blues in an Armani suit. Which was missing that very point. I think that they were really always impeccably dressed.
Yes, I might have expected Phil to pick up on that a bit, but maybe not.
Look, I know it's a Hollywood movie, but Cadillac Records is great. It's one of my favourite films. If you haven't seen it, go and see it. But they make a point about looking sharp and looking hot, pretty cool in Cadillac Records. It was definitely a status symbol thing for a lot of these guys, Simon, Jim and Brodie, because, wasn't that long ago they were picking cotton.
Yes, absolutely, Muddy Waters, King certainly.
Yeah, that's a film worth watching. It certainly, I think I'd have been quite scared of Little Walter if I was in his.
And Sonny Boy Williamson had a rep, didn't he? Yeah, he had a bit of a reputation for not suffering fools gladly. Mainly them white kids who come over here and
that was his quote on the Yardbirds, wasn't it? He said the British guys want to play the blues so badly, and that's exactly what they do.
Well, they do, yes. Fantastic. Jim, I just want to go back and just pick up on something you said. Clearly, I'm talking 1990, well, not talking about 1990, but did he vary the set lists quite a lot on each night, or whether it's pretty set up?
I think I think the set lists were pretty. They did alternate numbers. I think there were some changes in the thing across the tour. I think there was a bit of change, but I think it was pretty much set numbers. Definitely the orchestral, because I don't think you can kind of just improvise with an orchestra.
No.
But blues nights, the songs would probably be the same. The way they played them, would be probably different. Would be different every night. The rock nights were pretty the same. I think they interchanged certain numbers. No Alibis wasn't played every night. It came in and went out, and there seemed to be some songs that got swapped. But the best, Mark Roberty's books on that are the best. He kind of lists the set lists for most of the nights of the tour, so you can read through it. I don't have them to hand. I've got them through in the other room there, but they're a good kind of show of that, really. I think, so a bit of adjustment, but kind of pretty well rehearsed. Certainly the rock nights and stuff. I think the bands are smart enough to know that on some nights Eric might play a longer solo, take a bit longer.
Sure.
They kind of adjust to that pretty seamlessly. I think he tells them to watch him. He might want to, if he's enjoying himself, or he'll go longer. But so the actual performances could be quite different. I think that's part of the attraction. That some people you could go and see a tour, and every night it would be the same. And I think with Eric it does vary. He will play it differently depending on how he feels, and some nights I've never seen him be really bad, even when drinking. But I mean, I think the first show in Glasgow, he was good. I think the previous year people were furious about his performance because he was so out of it. In '78 he did quite well. But somebody I know was backstage and had met Eric at that time and said he was bouncing off the walls. He'd had so much drink. Literally just kind of like a crazy guy. But when he was on stage, he was great, and that was a great show because he was supported by Muddy Waters that year. So I think he was standing at the side watching Muddy Waters play. And maybe that kept him a little bit more focused. I don't know.
I saw him in '81. I think 81.
Yeah.
He was good. He was great. Playing at the Hippodrome.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's before the drinking. The drinking had well taken. But, so he didn't seem to impair his playing on the night I saw him.
Yeah. You know what? In all this, I wonder if there was ever a night that, even though everyone had a list, did they ever make a change on the fly?
Yeah.
Can I just, Brodie? I think they have, and maybe it's something that we can do later on. We can go through the book that, or the 2 volumes that Jim's talking about, because the set lists are in here, and I just want to back up a point that I said last week, and thank you, Jim, for bringing this up, because right through 1990 and 91. He did Layla. This is how he ended the set: Layla, Crossroads, and Sunshine of Your Love, which is the sequence that he used on the orchestra night. So, pretty consistent. But Brodie, you're right though. There are instances there where there are songs clearly that you can see that he's just chucked in.
Yeah, and I wonder, I mean, those Mark Roberti books, I'm pointing to it. It's the same one. That second one is on my shelf right there. But I wonder, what's in that book is what happened. I wonder, was that what was planned to happen for that night? Or did they, when they were on stage, did something come and they say, well, let's go into, especially with the blues guys, let's do the, the old John Mayall, song, or let's do whatever would be differently, Bory Life Blues, or, whichever one, Key to the Highway or Watch Yourself. I mean, a lot of those were staples, but that night, was it on the list, or did it just, they felt it and he said, let's do this one?
If you've got Buddy Guy on stage with you, I don't think you're going to know what's going to happen next, really.
Yeah.
the night I saw them at the Albert Hall, Buddy Guy was he was great, but he went on and on. You know, he kept, you know, I think at the point he was meant to stop, he started playing another song, you know. And the story goes that Eric got fined because there's a curfew at the Royal Albert Hall.
Yes.
And I think it's 11 o'clock, and they went beyond it. And Eric picked up a fine that night because Buddy just wouldn't stop playing, you know. It was just, it was quite thrilling to see that, because he was just a guy in full flow, you know, just in full flow.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just an extraordinary kind of performer, really. But there's no way Eric or anybody else would control Buddy Guy. You know, it's just very, very difficult to do that. But
well, you've got one of your heroes on stage. How do you say, Buddy, enough, stop? That would be hard, wouldn't it?
Pull the lead out.
Pull the plug. Yeah. Yes, that's what you're doing. Somebody at the back, for God's sake, pull the lead out. I can blame somebody else and not. Yes. It's that's funny. That is, yes. Well, I can imagine that being, because he's quite a character, isn't he, Buddy Guy? But you know, clearly does his own thing. Does he? You know, fantastic. But, a maverick.
That's it. Is Simon talks about how that was quite difficult on the recordings, because Buddy will vary his volume quite a lot, vocally and guitar, playing really quietly on the guitar, you know, taking everything down.
Almost acoustic sometimes, isn't it? Yeah. It's a very kind of thin, kind of acoustic, isn't it? Yeah, weird.
And then it's same with his singing. He can be almost like whispering and then screaming almost. So yeah, he's quite to capture that, I think, is a bit of a thing to do. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, it's clearly something of an undertaking to record it all and film it all and things.
Yeah.
So they must have had some plan to put it out. Yeah. As a thing.
Well, and at least you know that every mic they have in front of all those amps actually does go somewhere.
Goes to a piece of tape somewhere. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Although I don't know. Yes, the orchestral playing the orchestral recording is a lot more difficult than that, isn't it? Because then you're reliant on ambient mics and things to do the orchestra, not to, or maybe the sections.
But talking about mics, Brodie and Jim. Jim, Brodie, you may as well kick it off. Can I ask you guys a question? Standout tracks, Brodie. Got any standout tracks on the package? Albeit audio or the Blu-ray, whatever you've seen, if you want to talk about.
For me, it was All Your Love. Never expected that. Never expected that. I mean, I hadn't heard. I mean, that just kind of came from I've never seen him go back that far, you know, really in the catalog and play it like in the Blues Breakers. I mean, he's played some of the older, some of the other old songs, but with that one, it was, that one was a really pleasant surprise from, you know, especially from that era. And the other one was, Tearing Us Apart. You know, it's sort of, you go from one extreme to the next, from that early time to that, call it, you know, more produced, more, 80s kind of era, even though it would have been, you know, probably 5 or 6 years prior to this. It was still relatively fresh, but it was just another song from another era where they just pulled it out and played it like it was part of them. And with, you know, Phil and Gaines jumping in, all the other band members, you could tell his whole band was on that same level, you know, as him. So those two were really good. But even the takes on the ones that you expected, like I loved his his vocal delivery in Layla. I mean, there were things he sang it a little differently. He took different twists on. Again, it was part of him, but each verse was a little different, and I loved that. Oh, that was kind of a little different note into it, but those were the things that jumped out. The other one that jumped out was that Badge is not on there. So those were the things that jumped out that are on there, and then the one thing that jumped out that's not on there for me, because that's just, I love that song.
There's not much from Cream, is there? Only 2 songs, White Room. And Sunshine of Your Love, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Jim, you got any standout tracks?
That
you want to discuss and some thoughts with us?
Yeah, sure. I think I remember watching your programs, and I know you thought the kind of All Your Love, you kind of, it didn't quite do it for you, Andrew, because of your feeling on the original Blues Breakers, and I totally got your point on that. But that was Eric at 19, and it's kind of different set. But I too like the All Your Love because I think it's a great song. The difference between the 1990 Blues Nights and the 91 ones was in the 1990 ones, Eric came out with his band on his own first before he introduced Robert Cray and Buddy Guy. And in 91, I think they all came out at once, So I think he played, the night I was there, he played All Your Love. And it was different. It was kind of, it wasn't as powerful as this one. So I enjoyed seeing the one that's on this set. I think Jimmy Vaughan played well on that, and I thought it was. I liked the version of that, and I think going beyond that, I think I'd agree as well on the version of, particularly thinking of the visuals, the tearing us apart, where you just see the bands flying really, and Tessa and Katie are having really fun dancing and interacting with the other band members, and it just kicks along. You just can't watch that and not smile. You just see musicians just having a good time themselves. I think I quite like the Lay Down Sally. I like the interplay, with the vocal, the 4-piece band, where I thought the 4-piece band things, you saw really how well Nathan and Greg Fillinganes did the backing vocals as well as playing, So I enjoyed those kind of performances. And the orchestral ones, well, you can't not mention, I think, for me, the My Time After a While with Buddy Guy, where he gets Eric to stand beside him and they kind of trade guitar. That was pretty impressive to watch. And the orchestral stuff, there's the great version of good versions of, most of them I think come out well in that. Crossroads, I didn't realize, I think Brad spoke about the intro to Crossroads on the orchestral night, and I'd agree with that. It's really, really good. And I really like the Edge of Darkness music. I think that's great. I like the BBC, the EP that came out at the time. And actually, Mark Roberty kind of put me on a kind of tip that if you can hear more of the Edge of Darkness music if you have the DVD set, because they've isolated the music on the soundtrack there. Oh. So you can listen to all the music that was in the TV programs. So you can kind of rip that down and just put out and see, music that wasn't released before. So that's great. So I'd love to have heard a little bit more of Edge of Darkness in the orchestral nights if they could have done a bit more of it. But clearly that wasn't to be. But great. So something in each of those formats worth praising, I would say.
Yeah, I thought, Edge of Darkness is, there's just power, in that. And I thought it was a brilliant delivery of Holy Mother too.
Yeah.
And that one, because he could play that on an acoustic guitar or play it you know, with that kind of power behind him. But both of those were just wow, you know, also. And you know, and the one I'm looking here on the list, the one thing when this record first came out, the one song that jumped off, you know, besides Badge, because I really liked that version of it when it came out. Before, all I really had was the Cream version of it to hear. But when the original 24 Nights came out, it was Badge and then that version of Wonderful Tonight. It was like all these songs, you know, that real delicate, those little leads and stuff that he was doing in it. I'd sit down and try to figure out every one and what did he slide into, what did he bend up. But that sound, you know, and this is where Brad would get geeky as well. You know, it's like that Strat, that Soldano and Marshall and that chorus going on. It was just, it made you want to emulate that. It made you want to play like that. And even like Katie Kassoon's, you know, vocals in there, even Clapton on the record, you know, recognizes that little vocal solo thing. But so they take this little 3-minute song and make it, you know, 8-9 minutes or whatever, and it was brilliant.
Yeah.
Katie Kassoon's extraordinary, isn't she? You know, that the vocals that she can do are amazing. It reminded me a little bit of the Dark Side of the Moon, the woman that did the Great Gig in the Sky. You know, that kind of
Claire Torrey.
Glenn Torrey. Yeah, that was kind of pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, Jim, the show I wasn't on because I was ill, but I made a note of that, and that's what I said about it. That, and it is in that song, that section where Casey does what I would call a Claire Torrey and does that kind of wordless kind of, you know, thing, isn't it? There's the very great gig in the sky. That's interesting you say that. I'm glad somebody else thought that too. So, Jim, did you go to the orchestral nights? What?
No, I said fools seldom differ, Simon.
Yes. Yes. There's no fool like an old fool. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Did you go to the orchestral nights, Jim? Were you there?
No,
live?
I only went to the blues nights. I think it was
right.
I think my wife and I flew down we chose really. That's what we did, and you know, I've been I've been on some tours. I've seen a couple of shows, but I know there's people that go and see 5 or 6, and I think if you live in London, you can probably go and see a few more shows because you're not got the travel. But you know, you've got your flight, your hotel, and everything. And my wife always goes shopping, so I'm always very light of wallet when I return from London. So so I never went to the orchestral. I always kind of regretted I didn't see one of each show. You know, it would have been nice at that time, but you know, funds did not permit at that time.
Yes, I thought you were going to say, Jim, that your wife always went first class. Not shopping.
No.
Going to the airport, she turns left, I turn right. Yes.
Well, being an Aberdonian, you know, we realise that you've got to spend £10 to spend a fiver in London. You know.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. Definitely. Yes. No, because I'm really interested in the orchestra team because I clearly was a bit out on a limb with this, and I've listened to it again this week after sort of going back to it. I to be honest, I'm still of the same mind about it, but I'm very interested. See, Derek went to the orchestral nights in '91. I'd be fascinated to get some first hand about what that, you know, because I mean there's an orchestra in the Albert Hall would be a great thing. I've seen orchestras in the Albert Hall, you know, and it's absolutely designed for that, and they makes a fantastic noise. So yes.
You got to persuade.
I'm not suggesting I'm right.
You should persuade Derek to come to one of the Clapton shows.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of interesting insights, Derek, for sure.
Yeah, it'd be great if you would, Derek. There are open invitation to come. As I say, I'd be really interested to hear about that because it's for me. It clearly doesn't work on quite a lot of it, and I wasn't that. And I think some songs it does, but you know, okay, was it my original rather? What's an orchestra got to do with Crossroads?
Yeah.
As a, you know, that's my position.
Well, and I wonder how much of that too was just him pushing himself.
Yeah.
You know, trying to put himself into a context that a blues man isn't in, you know, or even a pop star isn't in. It was really, I think, and you know, this is just my take, but to me, I interpreted that as, again, another element of properness brought to it. You know, not just the you know, the dress up, the looking, but it's like, we're even going to play this with an orchestra, with a conductor, and you're not going to improv on that kind of thing. I think it was, okay, we better stay with this because it's a very fixed thing. And to me, it was, it was, some of the songs were it was an unusual context, but it was still like them making it work, putting it into a different thing, which I think just speaks volumes for the level of musicianship that they all had to still be able to do that. And I wonder, you know, when you think about the placement of like whatever amp he was using, some orchestra member, you know, is sitting there going, why did I draw the short straw? I'm sitting right next to this. I mean, every time, you know, you get around an orchestra like that, if they see an amplifier and they're already afraid of it. So that would have been interesting.
Yes, absolutely would have been stuff. Yeah. I mean, could I say that Derek and I had a fantastic kind of exchange. Derek makes in the comments to the orchestra. So if you haven't read them, go and read them, because they're, you know, it's what I think myself is what I think that you know, YouTube is about. And you know, he made some fantastic points in those, you know, and we had a proper kind of mature discussion about the orchestral thing. And so yeah, I felt Derek, so he was brilliant. Thank you so much for that. And you know, I felt that that's exactly what you know, what YouTube should be, and those comments should be about, you know, kind of proper discussion. So that was really cool. Yeah, I'm really interested by the orchestral thing, and I think, you know, I mean, I think, as I said on the show, that, you know, I completely validate his, you know, his journey as an artist and being able to explore. You know, if you're offered, no, would you like to play with an orchestra at the Albert Hall? Nah, I don't think I'll bother. You know, it's like, of course you're going to bother. You know, you're going to work out something to do. Oh my God, yeah, you know, I can't imagine anybody who says no is, you know, just doing it wrong. But you know, so I completely understand it. As I say, the fact that it certainly worked for Derek. He says, you know, for him, not so much for me. But you know, I think that's, you know, I completely, you know, validate Eric's decision to do it and to, you know, to experiment with it. I mean, as I think I said at the time, you know, he hasn't gone back to it much since. Has he done it much since? I've not seen.
No.
Jim, has he done it? Do you know if he's done it much since, or any orchestral stuff?
He did use an orchestra on some of the dates on the Pilgrim tour, the ones at Earl's Court, and it wasn't the same though. I mean, right. I remember being aware that they were there, but I didn't really feel. It wouldn't have been the same as the Albert Hall. You know, he played 2 shows in London. I don't know if he took the orchestra out on the tour beyond that. To go and reference the book, but certainly at the Earl's Court shows there was an orchestra present for those gigs. But I think he might have done more. I think I mean, this is really interesting because you know, actually he lost his son Connor, and then you know, he came back and he did the kind of did a soundtrack, the Rush soundtrack, and then the Unplugged thing, and he went in this direction after that. I think there were some plans to do you know, I think maybe certainly Michael Kamen, I think, hoped that he would record the concerto, but he never went back to that stuff. And about 7 years later, I think Michael Kamen did put out the concerto with a Japanese guitarist called Hot Eye. Right. I've got it on CD and I've listened to it, and there's some extra. So there's a song from that Eric and Michael Kamen had written from Edge of Darkness on that CD as well, called Nuclear Train, and
Right.
there's some other stuff, but it's not quite the same without Eric, But the guy is obviously a very worth listening to if you can hear it, if you can get a copy of. I don't know if it's on the streaming sites. It was on I don't know, London Records it's called, I think, but it's like yeah. And Greg Fillinganes is on that. He's featured on the concerto.
Oh, right.
He'd made he'd kind of hooked up with Michael Kamen for that recording, but for some reason I think Eric had kind of gone cold in the whole thing by that time. Yeah.
Very interesting, yeah. Well, it's very expensive, isn't it? If nothing else, I mean, it's really expensive.
Yeah.
Start. I don't know how big the orchestra was, but if you got 40 or 50 people, that's quite a lot to pay.
And I wonder, was that the
around.
time? was that also around the time when Eric changed management?
Yeah. There was a point where he, I think it was at the time they did the Pilgrim tour. I think he was just coming to an end of his relationship with Roger Forrester. And, there's a song on Pilgrim that's, I think You Were There was kind of, I think, dedicated to Roger Forrester. But I think there was a bit where I think that was probably a watershed for him taking control of his career and how he wanted to go forward. Because I think at a certain time, Eric couldn't function without Roger making a lot of the decisions for him and looking after him in a very, very deep way, to make sure they could get him on stage, so he was definitely, but he might have been a bit more. I don't know the detail, but there was certainly a point where Eric must have felt I need to go on my own now and have some different arrangements. So that would have been about 98, 99, I think was that. It was that time.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah. I think I found it, Jim. I think it's on YouTube there. Cayman.
Oh, right. Yes,
so it is on there. Yeah.
Tomasau something. I can't pronounce it properly, so excuse me. But it'd be worth checking out if you're interested. People are interested.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see what somebody else made of it, and not Eric kind of thing, as how they approached it, because my assumption is that Eric's part is not written down.
No. You're right.
Not a music. So Eric is, to some extent, there must be an improvisational element to it. Yes.
Yeah.
And what he's
For
playing,
sure.
it wouldn't be the same for 2 nights running, kind of
No.
thing.
I just thought back to the early question about songs that stood out, and I was quite surprised to see Lay Down Sally on here, and in 2 places.
Yeah.
It just seemed like that was the only bit of that country era that was touched, and why, is it because it was, one of the hits, or was it just the beginning of going back into some of that? I was a little surprised to see that one on the list. It was an anomaly.
Yeah. I think you're right, bro. I guess I was just thinking when you mentioned Badge was on the original CD and LP release of 24 Nights, but it wasn't on the video, was it? Maybe it wasn't filmed, Brodie.
You're right. It's not on the old school VHS. It is not here.
No.
But I think it was on the audio recording.
Definitely, it's definitely on the audio. I've they I've got the tapes as well, I think. But they mustn't have filmed that, or maybe the film didn't work out or something. So, but I agree with you. It would have been great to have had Badge at least on the audio of this. I think that was a lost opportunity to. Because a lot of people relate to that track and that particular version.
Good point.
Yeah.
No, I've put the Hote one in the chat. The link to it in the chat.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to look at it.
You know, the one that I think would have been really powerful too would have if they would have done Forever Man.
Yeah.
I mean, that one it probably with the orchestra that could have been really, or at least the big band, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to say no to that, Brodie. It's one of my favourite songs. It's one of the shortest guitar solos ever, but by gosh, isn't it one of the best?
oh, the tone of it, the power. It's just. Whew.
Now that would be interesting, wouldn't it? Eric with a big band.
Yeah.
That I don't know if he's ever done that. Yes, I think that.
Well, he has kinda. He's
done it with horns, isn't he? Has he done a kind of proper kind of big band thing, or is it just horns?
Kind of with Wynton Marsalis. That thing that they did, which is not my favourite album. What is it? Jim and Brodie came out 2008, 2007.
Yeah, it was all
there's
the
a version
old,
of Layla on there, which is
Funeral.
forgettable.
Yeah, funeral-y style. Play the Blues, I think it was called. Wynton Marsalis.
In Air Class. Yeah, and I think the reason Layla was on there is because one of the guys in the band, one of the horn players, wanted to play it. And I think I read that somewhere, and it was one of these things is not like the other ones. Kind of a song on that record. I thought, interesting.
Did some stuff with Jules Holland's band, didn't he? Big band, a couple of TV things. Was there not the tsunami appeal?
Oh yes, yeah. 2005. Yeah. Wow. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Well, because I can imagine that being great, and Eric really, what Eric does really fitting in with that kind of, because it's more. I think for me more than the orchestra kind of, thing. So,
I think a couple of times Eric's done that. I think I know it from Freddie King that there's that one. I can't remember what it's called. Gotten this gone. Sorry, it's gone out of my head. I that's a thing for me on the blues. Whenever Eric plays Freddie King songs, I think he just sort of raises his game. So he seems to be able to channel some of that because they obviously played together. I think, or Freddie supported him. I think.
Like tore down. Oh, love that one.
Yeah. Lover with a Feeling is the song I liked. I love that song that Freddie King song when Eric does that. Yeah, great.
Amazing. Yeah. But I think that would be great, to have that kind of got that big band kind of swing thing going, and Eric playing it like that. I think that would be an amazing kind of experience, And as I say, I think it would fit in better with what Eric does in a way is kind of more to the horns and the brass and the things, more than the strings possibly.
Yeah. I think for the blues night, one of the things probably if I would have liked him to have done would have been Double Trouble. I think that's a song he brought back in the blues tour in the '95 tour, and that's one of my favourites. And I think that one is one that when he got the horn players playing that, it got it was really reminiscent of the old Otis Rush track. So it's always great to see. That was a song that was kind of. He stuck with it for years, but he doesn't play it a lot, but when he does, it's great, so I would have liked to have seen that on the blues disc, but you just have to take what you get, really, don't you?
Or make a list of the songs that you're like, I hope he doesn't play this.
That's an interesting way of looking at it, bro. Morning, John. D351 Hayden. That's funny. He doesn't play that.
Short list.
Yeah.
Now
the short list.
He could play "You Are My Sunshine," and I would want to hear it. It's like, well, let's see what happens here.
So what's on your list of songs Eric shouldn't play, Brodie? I'm not going to see if he's playing that.
I don't have one.
I'm joking. You don't have to play it. No, it's fine. It's all fine. I've never thought of that at all. You know, like I've never thought of. So I'm going to see so and so, and I really don't want them to play that and that.
Yeah.
It's a lovely idea. Oh dear.
Oh.
Songs I don't want. There we are. There's a show. Songs I don't want them to play. Yes. But
Yeah.
songs your favourite bands they shouldn't play.
Yeah, it's after every show, we always play the game in the parking lot on the way back of, oh, they didn't play this or they didn't play that or they didn't, it's like, does anybody ever play the game of, I wish they wouldn't have played that song. It's you just don't
play that. I think
it's certainly not
new
with,
game, Brodie.
Certainly not with Clapton. Play what he wants.
No,
but
play you want. Yeah. I say, I can't ever remember going to any gig for anybody with the expectation. I hope they don't play that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
But
yeah.
I wonder if any of the other, call them country era songs ended up on there. Like if, with Lay Down Sally, I wonder if Tulsa Time was even an option to consider, to bring more than just one song from that era. Yeah. Because it's not a surprise that you don't see the Yardbirds on here. I doubt he has any desire to touch that stuff. But Blind Faith and Mayall and certainly Cream and Derek and the Dominoes. There's so much to pick from. But I thought in that country ish era, I thought
it's a long list, isn't it? If you start, if Eric sits there and he's making a list of the songs to do, and he goes through his entire career, I bet there's a lot. It's not going to be 15 songs, is it? And scratching your head for an encore. It's going to be a long list of songs, and then how they fit together. And I presume, Jim and I, one of the questions I want to ask you on follow up the set list is the running order on the CDs is that pretty much how they played them live, or has the running order's been changed on the CDs?
I think the Rock Night's pretty close to it. I don't know what Derek would tell you what I'd have to go and look at the Mark Roberty books, but I think pretty much. I think the blues shows started off with Key to the Highway pretty consistently. I think that's a number that they just get in the rhythm. And there was obviously he used to Have You Ever Loved a Woman fairly on, and Worried Life Blues and stuff like that. So the blues disc's a bit of a jumble up, I think. I'm not quite sure if it fitted the running order. I think that might have been different between 90 and 91. But I imagine the orchestral night was pretty much it. I don't know if they started with. They probably did. I think they did start with Crossroads. Yeah. So probably pretty much like it. I mean, good.
No, yeah. The reason I ask is because I know I wasn't on the show. I don't think so. I don't think I. But I'm just having a look. But Cocaine. And the song before Cocaine, they basically play the second half of they play Cocaine in the second half of the song before. And I wonder if that was a deliberate, whether they put that together in the rehearsals and gone, oh, look, there's a very similar thing. One leads into the other. That works really well. Or whether, somebody put them together in post edit or something like that. It's yeah.
I
You
think
see, Tearing Us Apart has that
Yeah.
kind of same vibe and the same chords of the thing called as Cocaine, and then they go into Cocaine and do kind of thing. I wondered how that had been put together.
Yeah. You know, I don't know how. A handful of years ago, kind of toyed with the idea of what, you know, if there were a Clapton tribute band or something to put together. You know, somebody had made the comment, there's so much material to pull from. Thought, yeah, I wonder how much that is. So I actually went through and pulled every record that, you know, all the way back to like Yardbird Records that he was on. You know, did the Wikipedia thing, listed every track, you know, every record, every track, you know, including the Rush soundtrack and the song, you know, the song he had on the Back to the Future soundtrack. And even though there were duplicates of songs, there were different versions of them. It's over 500.
Yeah. And
I'd have to pull that file out again, but I categorized all of them, like this record, you know, this year, this was the track listing, and then even listed the writers on those to find out how many of those were Clapton songs. But I mean, you could really, there's over 500 different songs that he's recorded over his career.
Wow.
So
there's also all those guest appearances that he's done, like, you know, the Curtis Mayfield one, and, you know, Jings. He's been a guest. There was a thing he said actually in one of the interviews where people were talking about his discography, and he said, "Oh, there's a lot of things I played on that isn't on this list. You know, people just don't know about it. Maybe stuff like Delta Lady. I don't. There's a bit of a debate about whether he was on Joe Cocker's Delta Lady song, but yeah, you know, there's some. I like that. I think Where's Eric's got a really good on the web page list of all the session work he's done, and there's some great stuff there. The one I like the Billy Preston one. That's The Way God Planned It. That's a pretty amazing track. But yeah, I mean, it's just a life in music, isn't it? And that period in when he was in the Dominoes were just forming, and he was doing so many sessions that year. You know, 1970, P.P. Arnold, and is that right? It's not. I keep getting that wrong. I think it is. And just you know, the George Harrison, All Things Must Pass. It was that singer, the Dominoes backed her. There's an album. Is it P.P.? Is her name P.P. Arnold?
P.P. Arnold, singer, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's an album called The Turning of the Tide, and Eric and it was the Dominoes were doing some of the backing on All Things Must Pass, and Stigwood said, "I want you to come and play on this this artist's record," and he just went off and they did 4 or 5 tracks with P.P. Arnold, and it was never released until a few years ago. It came out, so I never got round to buying it, which is, you know, I think it's one of those ones that shot up in price, so I kind of regret not picking that one up. But just so prolific, Brodie, in terms of, you know, just his own recording work, but also I think if people said, "Will you come and play on this?" or management wanted him to do it, he pretty much did it all. Staggered by the amount of things he did in 1970. Absolutely staggered by that.
Yeah.
It's called the Turning Tide, Jim.
That's it. I knew it was something like that. Yeah. So you've got
it's certainly released now. But,
Jim Gordon and Bobby Whitlock and Carl Radle and Eric playing on that album. You know, I think they do a Stones cover if I recall right. You can't get what you want. Yeah.
Just having a look to see. Oh, there we are. Just see if I can see. Oh, there's a track listing. Is that a track listing? Yeah, you can't always get what you want, Jim. Yeah. Do that last track on it. Is that? Yes, it is available. Is it? Amazing. Yeah. Just scanning through.
Anyway, we're a bit off subject for 24 nights, but yeah, I mean, this is maybe because you guys have done 3 programs. You've covered pretty comprehensive. So we're maybe drying up a little bit of things to kind of add into it. But you did a great job with those 3 shows. I certainly enjoyed I missed one of them, or I listened to it on catch up, but great
Me
great
too.
overview of the recording. Yeah,
Yeah, they were
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
They were really good.
yeah.
Yeah. I know, Brodie. I've just we'll change the subject. I noticed you've got yourself a very nice new amp this week.
Yeah, the hunt.
Very nice.
It's yeah, the third of the set. Here's the the
Yeah.
champ, and the deluxe, and
Yeah.
right in front, I got a Twinilux. I found
Saw
one,
that post. Saw that post, bro.
and well, I just sent that to you guys. I didn't post anything on it. It seems a little, and I'd send it to some of you guys I knew would like it, but I don't know. It seems a little self-serving sometimes to put that up.
We're
but
fans, bro. You can share it with the fans. You can
Yeah.
share it with the
There we go.
fans.
This is what we're
that's
talking
the
about.
one.
Yeah.
That's there you go.
Sorry.
So
that's
they
what
never
you-
came
exactly
here
what
to
you're
New
supposed to do.
Zealand. We never got those. We got that one behind you. The is the champ. Is that the champ behind you?
Yeah.
Yeah. We got the
Yeah.
champs here.
Yeah, that's the Vibro Champ, and then the Tremolux, which is the
So you've got the whole three.
deluxe. All three of them.
Ah.
So it's
I've
when
never
they
heard of a Twinilux. So,
it's a 57 twin, but he wanted a few different tweaks in these things where the tremolos in them, and two of them actually have an attenuator built into those.
Yeah.
So on the twin,
Correct.
you can, which
Right.
I don't know. I mean, on that one, it sounds, you just got to have it full on, you know what I mean, to cut that down. But on that twin, to go from like 40 watts down to 18 or whatever it takes it down to, it makes it practical. I mean, you can turn it up and it'll start to break up. And
Break up
you can,
when? On four or five?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, it's the sweet spot on an old twin. That's what it does. And the other one is you can not only go down in power, but you can go down in power to just one speaker, and you'd be surprised
Yes.
how much quieter that makes it. So if you do, get into a place and it's too much, you can knock that down to basically that amp.
So I can't understand why they haven't marketed that amp more because of those features and benefits. Because when they first came out, everybody, all the guitar magazines, all the YouTube channels, Jim, you were probably watching, were going on about how great those features were. So you could gig with it at a reasonably big club, and you could play with it at home or in your backyard.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, they didn't make them very long, and when they came out, they were really expensive
because they were hand wired.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
part of it from, a lot of it was the hunt. I was patient. I wasn't going to
I
go.
bet.
But so for me, it's, I sit down and you look on Reverb or you find it somewhere, or, so you look at a bunch of them and you're like, they've changed this, or the writing is worn off on the panel, or just
That's mint.
something where you're like, but you look for that perfect one where, I don't know, something just happens where you go, here's a fair number in my head that if I want to get it, I'm going to see if this person wants it. You don't want to offend them or anything, but
Did you get it locally?
It was a guy from Oklahoma. So he shipped it to me.
It's
And
pretty mint.
Nice.
It's a mint looking amp.
yeah, and it's
So is it
original.
Brodie? Is it an Eric Clapton signature thing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they made three, and they only made them like
there's one on.
Yeah.
Sale here, £2,750. Bury St Edmunds, if anybody wants it.
And I didn't know why they only made them for a few years. It was maybe 3 or 4 years.
Nuts.
And
2012 to 2016.
yeah, and so I mean, it's like the Strats, the Clapton Strat. I love looking for the early ones. There's something about those that just feel different to me. They're all great, but I remember when they came out and seeing the first one in the store, and I wish I would have remembered what serial number it was. But then you didn't care. You just saw it and you're like, oh, that's one of the Clapton Strats,
Sure.
So, but it all comes back to it's this imagery. Brad speaks of this all the time about how much that seeing that era of this 24 nights and this gear that the Soldanos in most of the cases, but that Strat, it was as iconic as Eddie Van Halen's red and white striped guitar or the Bumblebee or
Correct.
whatever. It was a thing. And
So did you pick up a guitar recently too?
I did earlier when I was practicing. I just picked it up, but you mean like acquire another one?
Yes.
Or,
Yeah. What was the one that you sent the serial number to us?
Yeah. Let's see.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Can I? I'm just going to present you, Brodie, if that's okay.
Yeah. Can you see that one?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Pretty.
What's the number, Brodie? What's the number on it?
26.
Well, I know what. 26.
26.
So that's 87,
88.
88.
Wow.
Yes. Which was the first year they came out, and they were made in the custom. This was the beginning of the custom shop.
Gold sensors.
Right.
Yeah, lace sensors, gold lace sensors up until mid '90s sometime when they went to the noiseless. And I like them both.
Original
I like
frets?
both of them. Yeah,
Original frets.
everything's original on it.
Wow.
That I can tell. It's even got the block and the tremolo. That's usually the question I ask when I see them on Reverb. Does it have the block? Have you upgraded anything? Because
By taking it out.
if you've changed anything on it, I'm out. I don't. There are no upgrades for me.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So does it have the 20 dB switch as well, Brodie? The boost switch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they all do that. Like here's
they all do. Yeah.
That's that tone control thing where in the middle it's like a normal Strat, and then all the way up it's a little glassier, and then this one is that mid boost. Yeah. Where it goes to that just big fat sound, and you see him rolling it on and off all the time.
Yeah, that green is beautiful, bro. It's a beautiful green guitar.
Yeah, love that color, and it's I know they say I don't know how many they made of of the red or the pewter or the green, but it's
a lot of pewters, but I don't think a lot of greens or reds.
Probably not.
Yeah, or the red ones. And I mean, for me, the pewter one is that's the one. But they're all, but just to find
that's the one.
Yeah, they all feel a little different, and they're all fun, but they're fun to collect. When you find one, and I'm always on the hunt for those. So.
I agree, Crappy. I had the Blackie, which had the Fender noiseless pickups in it, and I got rid of it because it was just nowhere near as articulate. This is my own opinion, folks, as the lace sensors. I'll be keen to hear Brodie and Jim, your opinions on the noiseless versus lace sensor debate.
That's like asking which one of your children do you like the best.
Which one, Brodie? Which one?
Both. I think I've got like 4 of them with the noiseless, but most are the older ones with the lace sensors. At least the ones that I've got, the noiseless sound a bit more like a traditional Strat, but they can still do that whole that thing, with the TBX and with the mid boost. But the lace sensors are, I think they're hotter. I think there's I don't know, just a little different sound to it. But I do like usually the one I grab and go with all the time it's I don't know, an 05 or something. Just found it and it felt pretty good and played well. It's been the workhorse, and it's got lace sensors in it.
Yeah, I've got a.
Or it's got the noiseless. It's got the noiseless in it that work and sound good.
I've got a Strat Plus here somewhere, guys, that only has the TBX. It doesn't have. It's not a. It's got the passive TBX. Doesn't have the mid boost on it, and it has the lace sensors. And Jim, you're a Stratocaster guy too. There is a difference. Some people, some of the purists prefer, the standard pickups, and I get that. But for my own ear, the lace sensors, can't beat them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, and when you're going out to play somewhere, it's that, and I think some of this whole signature model thing has gotten out of control personally, but yeah, the Clapton ones are a thing, as is a Lucille and things like that. But these Claptons, if you take one of those out, you don't have to make a decision that night of, am I playing a Fender or a Strat or a Tele, or am I playing a Les Paul or 335? That guitar is probably covers more. That's more of a Swiss Army knife than any guitar I've got.
Yeah.
And with any amp.
Good point.
Brodie, I was going to ask you, if you don't mind. I've got a lace sensor signature, Eric. I think it's 89 as well, or 90. It was Pewter one, and I've loved that guitar. I've had it since, all these things. Still great. And I got the last guitar I got was an American Original 50s series, and I love the tone of it. I think it's got quite a chunky neck, but I love the tone of it. But I think my wife's in earshot. But I'm buying one more guitar.
Good boy. I love it. Good boy.
So I'm going to go out, and I'm not sure what to go, but I was kind of wondering about getting one of the custom shop ones. And I kind of looking at, I'm just not sure what's the best one to go for. So any tips, Brodie, would be really helpful. Because I don't want to spend a lot of money for very marginal gain, but I'd quite like to get just a nice one to have, and then it's a kind of legacy thing to hand on to my son when I the daisies, so to speak.
Yeah. I have. There were I was in the right place at the right time, and when I think I've told this story before, but when my children were born, I would get I buy your son a blue Strat from the year they were born, get your daughter a pink Strat from the year they were born, and I did that with some of my my niece and things too. But so when my youngest son was born that year, the only decent blue Strats they made were the Clapton custom shops. For whatever reason, there really wasn't a blue option that was not some real low, not something worthy of passing down. And long story short, I stumbled onto a guy selling one of the Mercedes blue.
Yeah. And
that was the year they did a run of the Daphne blue ones too. And I read it again, right place, the right time. Got both. And they are as different between each other as some of the other ones are. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know that you're going to notice a huge difference between a
Yeah.
good signature series and a custom shop. That's just me. And I think the one thing to maybe look at is one of those journeyman ones that's relicked a bit. That that one being relicked, it's a different animal. But I mean,
what about a Jeff Beck? What about a Jeff Beck strat, Jim?
Yeah, I've seen some of those. I've never actually played one. So I think the neck on those, the original ones, were fairly chunky too. So I don't know, but yeah, that would be an option. I'm not rushing into it anyway. I need to go and kind of check some out and see what it's like. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna. I've heard what you said. Really, I think because there's also it's kind of hard following it, but there's a custom shop and then there's master built as well, isn't there?
Yeah,
it's the same as I think what Clapton's actually playing on stage, but they're really expensive, I think, and for a single guitar.
Yeah,
master bolts, 40-50 grand.
Yeah.
And it's always a law of diminishing returns, isn't it? It definitely
that's
is
what
a
I'm
law of
saying.
diminishing returns. This stuff.
Yeah, and again,
you
the
buy a
one that I
$2,000
grabbed,
guitar.
Yeah.
Go on, Brodie.
And the one that I take most of the time is an 05 pewter Strat with the noiseless pickups, and it's the one with the least pronounced V of all of the ones that I have.
Right. Okay.
Which is disappointing actually, because I like that. I like that real exaggerated V. Now Gibson, I want something real big. That's just what I like on those. But they're all different. Play as many as you can, and but for the money, I mean, it and maybe I'm just not good enough to be able to tell the difference in them. But for the value of call it 15, US $1,500 guitar versus a $4,500 guitar. I don't hear or feel or see 3 times the value of it, and certainly not on not for a master build. I mean, to each their own, and you've got to cater to the doctors and lawyers and stuff. But when you're Eric Clapton and you want Todd Krause or a specific builder to do it for you, I mean, by all means. And if people can appreciate that kind of thing, by all means. I don't have that ability to discern it and understand why would I pay that much for a custom shop when I could hunt and pick up 2 or 3 of the early ones, but that's just more fun for me.
So. I did see the Journeyman. I saw a Journeyman one, a Sunburst one that looked quite nice actually. It was slightly relict, which is not something I've been particularly keen on, but I thought that guitar looked pretty good.
And the neck feels really good on. It's worn off the back too.
Thank you.
Let us know, Greg Siplin, how you go when you find your Brian sets 6120. Let us know, because they're great guitars too.
Yeah, those dice look really cool.
Oh.
But I think and I've played some, when I go on these guitar holidays, people tend to bring very nice guitars, that kind of thing. And I've played quite, bring some really nice guitars, and you think, wow, this guitar costs $5,000 or something, and I don't feel like it's 10 times better than my my 500 quid Strat or something, I mean, I think if you go into the mechanics of how it's built by a single person by hand doing all that, that's where the money is. But in many ways that's kind of hidden, isn't it? These days, buy a guitar, people can get a CNC machine to carve a neck, carve a body, and kind of, so are you ever going to notice the difference? I'm with you, Brodie. I don't think I could. I can't tell the difference. This Strat I've got here. This is I don't know, 400 quid Strat, you know, the neck on it is just brilliant, you know, it's just got, you know, it's fantastic playing and feeling guitar, you know, and I can't imagine any other guitar how much would you know, feel better than this in terms of playing instrument.
Yeah.
I had it refreshed, but you know, but it's a stock, you know, Japanese Strat, you know, cost 400 quid, you know, but actually it's a great guitar, you know, and I, as I say, I've got an American telly, so I've got, you know, which is, you know, three times the cost of this. The neck doesn't feel as good as this one. It really doesn't.
Yeah,
you know,
Simon, the Japanese Strats are quite well sought after now, really.
Yeah.
A lot more from a certain era. There was one in our local guitar shop, and they were asking over $1,000 for it. So, you know, it was.
I'm not sure mine's worth $1,000, but I've got a Strat from I've got one from 1988. My old faithful Strat that I play on every gig I ever go to. I just had it refretted, and it's brilliant. But it's a great guitar. I love it as a guitar. I've played that, bro. Holiday time one time. Somebody bought a 66 Strat. I was able to sit there and play mine against the 66 Strat through the same amp. So you get, you know, just plug it directly in, so you get a real comparison about what. Yes.
John's comment there is brilliant. It's a gold-plated toilet. Yeah, I don't think I'll be buying one of those. So that's
yes, that does the same job. No, and I think I feel, you know, that's true, especially these days. You know, these days, you know, you spend £7,000 or £8,000 on, you know, is it really gonna feel, and you know, to my undiscerning ears, is it really going to be better? I don't know. The 66 Strat was a bit better than my Japanese one. You know, it was a bit extra on the sound at the particular volume, but actually, I wasn't disappointed by the performance of my own, you know, guitar in the slides. I came away thinking, you know what, it sounds pretty good, really. You know, the 66 Strat's quite, you know, this is a pre, it's still the pre CBS thing, you know, with the smaller headstock in it. You know, it was a lovely guitar, but I didn't think to myself, that's not, you know, that's not 40 times my guitar by a country mile, and play, you know, and it was really interesting to play the two things back to back, you know, compare them. It's brilliant.
Maybe instead of a custom shop, I could just come home with two
spending
guitars.
that sort of money on it.
And so much it.
But Jim, I think you. Go on, Brodie. Go on.
Oh, so much is the hands. You know, I mean, you can a guitar on a stand doesn't make any sound. Yeah. You know, and it's which one speaks to you, which one inspires you to play, and I mean, they all vary. It's an individual thing, you know, and what gets me is the people that want to criticize things. They have no idea. You know, it's like if some $200 guitar speaks to a player and it makes them want to play and they do a great job, you know, why in the world would anybody make some snarky comment about that? You know, it's like, that's fantastic. If that's what it takes for that guy to do it, or the girl to do it. Yeah. I mean, it's all about the player, what inspires them, you know, what they, and especially, you know, some of the people, it's what you can afford at the time. You know, I've seen some really just, you know, people that you just want to just smack them when they make some kind of a remark about, you know, a price point on something. Well, they're just into it, or they're young, or for whatever reasons. Don't criticize them for having an entry level, or they're on their way to something else. You know, congratulate them for it, inspire them for where they're at. You know, that I've never understood that, how people can be like that.
I got this is my £200 Chapman guitar that I bought. It's a Super Strat basically, but just for it as a vanity project, for a bit of a laugh, because I wanted to see what I would do. I've got two Saw V60 pickups and a Thornbucker in it. It's bloody brilliant. This is my second guitar when I go out gigging. The take his guitar because he's got the humbucker for some stuff I do. But a guitar player designed this, so the neck's really nice. It's a £200 guitar, and yet it sounds fantastic. The pickups sound brilliant. And it's like. Oh, that's inspired, yeah. But yes, it's a pseudo Sur. It's a cheeky, £350 rather than £3.5 grand. But I've had it set up. It plays really well and sounds brilliant.
Same is true on amps. I mean, Simon, you play with these amps too, but I don't know if you can see it here. There's like a whole. I mean, the Fenders and the Marshalls and Matchless and all that, but these PV Classic Series amps are fantastic.
Yeah.
And I've got a little Classic 30 here that have been schlepping around for over 30 years, and changed the tubes in it, I think maybe one time, and it sounds amazing. It sounds better than it. I know how to make that work easier, and I can rely on it better than any boutique thing or anything that they call it gear flex here. If you're going out and you're playing with other bands or whatever, you want to show up with gear that the other bands are going, oh, these guys must be good, And at this point, I love to walk in with that amp and have somebody, just sort of make that judgmental look. And it just makes me want to make it sound even better. Yeah. It's like, it's a PV, and guess what? It's great.
Yeah. Well, I'm the same. My PV Delta Blues I've had for 25 years. As I say, changed the tubes once because it went a bit wrong. But other than that, I put it in the back of my car, drive out, play it. And and as I was saying to the boys the other day, because I'm such an idiot, I've only. Because I couldn't really work out what the boost button was on the back. Well, the back was 4. Because you have to press it by hand. It's like, why have I got a boost button? I need to go press by hand if I want to do something. But of course, it isn't for that at all. It's actually, if you're playing single coils, you put the boost on, and then you get that slightly kind of fatter sound. Sounds pretty great. It's like, oh yeah, that's what it does. I'm such an idiot, but it doesn't matter. But we live and we learn. It's taken me 25 years to discover this trick.
Yeah. Well, did I tell you the story about the mid boost on the Clapton Strat when I first got it? I don't know.
No, go on.
Okay. When I got my first one as a high school graduation gift from my grandmother. And we went and to the store to get. I had no idea I was getting it. It was her and my dad that put it all together, and they're like, "Oh, let's go get him this for his high school graduation." Well, our graduation, we were playing at the high school graduation party that time too. So the day we got it, we went to the store, got it, and then came back, got changed, went to the school for ceremony and whatever there to play, and I just brought it, and I'm thinking I'm going to play this new Strat, and that's this Clapton Strat. So like with any other one, the tones are all the way up and the volume is up, and you play. And I remember plugging this thing in going, what in the world is the matter with this thing? And I thought, well, that's right, it's got a battery. I wonder if something's wrong with it. I had no idea that I had that mid boost on. It wasn't a tone knob. I mean, typical guy. Why would you read the directions on it? But to play it. So, and throughout the night, I'm like trying to figure out what's the matter with. So I finally did roll that thing back. I'm like, well, this sounds more like it, more like a regular. And it wasn't until we got home and, a few times later, I'm like, oh, that's what that little orange tag is that was hanging on it in the case. But I mean, it's sort of like the boost button. Yeah, I had no clue. I was 18 years old and, thought it was a Strat.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, and no internet to tell you anything else. And yes, don't read the instructions as a thing.
Yeah, you're not going to Google that or look up a YouTube video on it. So
no.
Awesome. I'm just looking at the time, chaps. So it's obviously a pleasure to have Brodie and Jim join us. And look, guys, we have to get you on often, more often than what we've been doing. And I know that it comes down to time for a lot of us. And Brodie, I know that it's a difficult time for you to come on and join us. So we always appreciate the fact that you're going to make that time and that sacrifice to come on and share your thoughts and experiences with us, Brodie. Thank you, brother.
Sure. Thank you. The pleasure is all mine. You guys are, thank you all.
We'll certainly have you back on for another show, Jim, as usual. And how many shows have you done with us now? This is you'll be getting a badge soon.
Getting a bill, I think, was what you were saying earlier.
You get a bill and a backstage pass, Jim.
Always a pleasure having you on too, Jim. And again, folks, before I pass it on to the Rock Professor and our guests to say something before we go, one of the great things about our community is that you meet people and we all come into this love of music at different degrees. And I'm sure that you would have got a snip over the last couple of hours of the degrees of passion that Jim and Brodie have in regards to Eric Clapton, how important Eric Clapton's music and his career has been for you two, as well as it has been for a lot of us. And it's always a pleasure to hear that and be part of that journey here on the show, Simon, hearing how this guy has inspired you guys, and still today in our old age.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yeah. As always, it's been a pleasure, gentlemen. Fantastic. I'm gonna say hello to everyone in the chat because I didn't do it earlier. But as ever, thanks to Derek Clapton. Fantastic, John ZD351. You always up to KXM Rock. Nice to see you, KXM Rock. We've had Holly Lewis, Greg Roberts, Tune, Gret Zeppelin, Crappy Luxury. Morning to you all. Thanks for dropping by. It's fantastic to see you all. Let's hope I know Holly. Yes, I think that's everyone who commented in the chat. So great. Oh, Tim Thomas as well. Morning, Tim. Hope you're good. Thanks for dropping by. Just yeah. Yes. So thanks one and all for that. And thank
awesome.
you. Lovely to see you, Brodie and Jim. Fantastic to get you back on the show. Have a great chat.
So, Jim, because you've been on here with us a few times, we'll get you to say a couple of words if that's okay. And then Brodie, because you're the newest one, we'll get you to end the show with your comments if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, well, thank you. It's always good to tune into this show when you're kind of listening, and the group of people that tune in regularly always have some really interesting things to say in the comments, as do Brad and Simon and Andrew, of course. And I think there's a nice kind of community building. There's a lot of great music out there that we all like to share. I think one of the most important things about music is being able to share that kind of appreciation. And if it's something that you just enjoyed on your own, it would be a bit kind of selfish. So being able to communicate and share is the biggest bit for me. And I've enjoyed always listening to the shows, but also occasionally contributing. So keep it up, and look forward to watching how the show develops over time and the channel. Brilliant stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Brodie.
Yeah, I echo the same sentiments as Jim, and just want to reiterate, that this community and all the people that are part of it, what just a great place to be around. Great people, and sharing the passion of music and particular artists and particular gear. And not only is it just a joy to be together to celebrate all that, but it's I've learned a lot from people on this channel, and just different insights and different ways of looking at it. It's you know, I can't say enough of how much I appreciate this community and this channel, and my sincerest thanks to you all and to Brad as well. I love this place. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. And like I say, I'm going to say the last word. We'll have you guys on for sure. And if there's any projects that you two are both involved in, if there's any projects that you guys are doing on social media that you want us to promote or to take advantage of what we have here, just flick me a message, flick Simon a message, Brad a message. You know, we'll be more than happy to promote anything that you guys are working on. Please keep that as an open invitation.
Thank you. Now it's time for Brad's Tech and Tone Tips.
Take care all. See you next week. Something else.
Had to do that. Had to
All right.
do that.
Yeah.
Couldn't have a show without Brad.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Hey, good night,
Yeah,
everybody.
don't go, Jim. Don't go, Brody.
You
We're just
call
going to
well.
play the end video. Please don't go.